flat fee subscription pricing model is dead. Here's why. So this is essentially a reflection on two things: trying to create new AI products that do charge subscription flat fees for different plans, different tiers. One is, and this has been going on for a while, is subscription fatigue. So people are just tired to sign up to yet another product that charges them a flat fee that they don't know how to evaluate in terms of results, what money it saves them, what time it saves them. And the second one is essentially people being unsure if AI will actually solve the problem. And there's 2-3 different camps here. There's one, people that are just kind of lost because of the sheer amount of products that are out there that are being vibe coded and being pushed to them through whatever channel they use the most. A lot of it will also be, ads driven. And a lot of them have signed up to 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, and they have been charged money, but they just haven't gotten any sort of results out of them. This is usually called like Vaporware, right? Because all the landing pages, they look shiny, the products look great, but then they're either too hard to use for an average person, or they just don't deliver on what they promise. It's kind of the landing page or demo versus real results meme that you might have seen out there. And so they just don't trust AI to solve the problem in a good enough way to make it worth the effort in both time and also money to just sign up to something, right? And so that's one camp. And then the other essentially just went out and used ChatGPT by themselves, and they didn't know how. There was no AI strategy within the company. There's no hand holding. This is something I've also been seeing quite a lot, that there is just leadership has no idea themselves how to use AI. And so they're just like, yeah, we need to use ChatGPT. But then people go out, use ChatGPT, and they get absolute horrible results because they just don't know how to use it properly. There's no training, there's no hand holding. So that's another uncertainty, I've seen in the space. And people are just, ultimately kind of lost, and trust is at an all-time low. And you're also maybe been seeing that 90% of AI adoption projects have failed. There are like statistics on this stuff as well. So we're in a kind of tricky phase if you're trying to hold on to selling subscription flat fee SaaS. And what I've been seeing as a trend, and I hope you love this amazing AI generated presentation that I created for my LinkedIn post, but that's just on the side. I say people charging pay per result. So instead of charging flat fee, you will just charge for, let's say, if you have a workflow that generates leads, you charge per lead, which is something that people are already used to doing in a lead gen scenario. And people only then pay when your product delivers, which removes the objection of like, oh, will this work? I don't know if it's going to work. And I have to pay to find out, which isn't what I want, right? And so that is essentially aligning your workflow or your product with what the customer wants, which is results. This is an old thing like value-based pricing, but it used to be more around like you pay a subscription fee for however much this saves you in time or money at a premium or whatever, right? So you wouldn't price based on cost, you would price based on value delivered, which is very similar to what this is. And what that, again, does align incentives, and we avoid unnecessary subscriptions, and we have a win-win approach where we just charge the user when they get results. We make sure that the results they get are the best they can be, because we're incentivized as the producer of the product to create the best output to both keep the user around and obviously to also show them that we can solve the problem that we're solving or trying to solve. And I think this addresses really the two biggest pain points that I mentioned in the beginning. And I'm curious to see, because it isn't always possible. I think it's mostly vertical integrated solutions or workflows that allow for this. But another added on benefit you have here is essentially if you're running a workflow, you're automating a workflow, and you charge $25 for something that used to be $50, let's say in lead generation or whatever, then it's very interesting that with every model change, your margins will increase. So right now it might still be very expensive on the token side to get a very, very good workflow result or a very, very good agent that does the job in a super streamlined way, is flexible, but then is also really good and precise. And so with every model increase, as long as the user doesn't demand a better end result, which isn't always the case, but sometimes, right? Like if they demand a lead, they don't really care, as long as the lead is good or warm or whatever, they won't demand from you to use the latest and greatest model to get there. They will just demand that end product, and the end product will always stay the same. Because with like frontier models, let's say OpenAI, ChatGPT, they don't really get to leverage the decreases in token cost because the user will keep demanding to use the best model, which what happens now is there will be a better model than the previous one, but that will require more compute. So essentially you are potentially able to do something with, let's say, Haiku, which is like a Anthropic model. You could do it with Haiku, but people will still keep using Opus or Sonnet because they're just used to using that, and they will always try to use the best model for the job and not necessarily the one that's good enough, right? So what you can do, to summarize, is you can just use the bare minimum to get the job done, and the user doesn't really care. They only care about, the end result. Enough of that. If any of this stuff sounded interesting to you, just let me know down below, and I'll see you in my next video. Cheers.